This week we're looking at one of the hard sayings of Jesus, specifically, let the dead bury their dead. It occurs twice in the New Testament. It's in Matthew chapter 8 and Luke chapter 9. Let's start out by reading both of those in the ESV. Matthew 8:21 and 22 says, "Another of the disciples said to him, 'Lord, let me first go and bury my father.' And Jesus said to him, 'Follow me, and leave the dead to bury their own dead.'" Now we get Luke 9:59 and 60. "To another he said, 'Follow me.' But he said, 'Lord, let me first go and bury my father.' And Jesus said to him, 'Leave the dead to bury their own dead. But as for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God.'" So first up, there's a significant difference in the context. So notice in Matthew, we're told that the guy is already a disciple. So another of the disciples said to him, ... But in Luke, the exchange is in response to Jesus issuing a call to follow him to some person. And then the person responds with verbatim the same statement about burying his father. So also the difference is in the alternative to going and burying the father. So in Matthew, the alternative that Jesus gives is, instead of going and burying your father, follow me. But in Luke, the alternative to going and burying the father is proclaiming the kingdom of God. So for some people, it's incredibly important that this be two separate events with two different people involved. Because if not, that implies that one of the stories is correct and the other story is incorrect. But the similarities of the settings, the similarities in where it's placed in within the Gospels, the similarities of the wordings that are used by both the man requesting to go bury his father and the statement about letting the dead bury their own dead from Jesus, they're so precise and they're so consistent that these are surely two variations of one story. If that's troubling for you, I don't know what to tell you other than you'll have to wrestle with that and explain what would justify the similarities other than this being two guys trying to tell the same story and mixing details a little bit. But on to the koine, which is the important part. So let's first look at the request here in Matthew chapter 8. Heteros de ton matheton epen auto. I want to pause for a moment and look at heteros. So heteros means another of a different kind. And it's used here to differentiate from the person Jesus was talking to in the verse preceding. So just before this in Matthew 8, Jesus is talking to a scribe who says, "I'll follow you wherever you go." And Jesus says, foxes have their nests, foxes have their dens, birds have their nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Then we get this story, and we're told that this was heteros, a different man. So this is not that same scribe. And this different man is ton matheton, of the disciples. So a different one of the disciples, Apen, said auto to him. And what did he say to him? Kyrie, Lord. Epitrepson, moi. Allow me, proton, first. Apelthane, to go, kai thopsai, and to bury ton patera mu, my father, the father of me. So Lord, allow me first to depart, to go, and to bury my father. So he's already a disciple, heteros de ton matheton, and he seeks a furlough. He asks to be allowed to depart for a while, and he wants to go and bury his father. So let me leave to bury my father. The request in Luke is almost identical, but instead of having two infinitives like we have here, the two infinitives apelthane and thopsai, we get a participle and an infinitive. So he says, allow me while departing to bury my Father. So let's go back to the response from Jesus. This is from Matthew. Akoluthe moi, follow me, kai aphes tous necrus, and leave the dead, thopsai, to bury, tous heauton necrus, their own dead. So akoluthe is a present active imperative third person singular. And it can either mean keep following as one who is already following, or it can mean begin to follow and continue following. But remember, in the context, we're told that the person who's talking to Jesus here is already a disciple, right? Heteros ton matheton. So it sounds like he's already a follower. If you're already a follower, from the two choices for akoluthe moi, it seems more likely that Jesus is saying, keep following me. Don't divert, don't diverge and go off on this errand. Instead, continue following me. Unlike Luke, who the discussion is in response to Jesus calling someone to follow him, to start something new. Then we need to focus on the use of heauton, the reflexive pronoun, instead of the simple possessive pronoun auton. So heauton is stronger and more specific than just auton. He could have simply said, thopsai tous necrus auton, to bury their dead. But by using the reflexive pronoun heauton, he says, let the dead, leave the dead to bury their own dead. So in other words, he is placing this man's father in the same class, in the same category with those who are figuratively dead. Because surely, literally dead people can't bury anyone, right? But so he says, there's a group of people in the world who are figuratively dead. We can read into it those who have not yet come to follow Jesus. And he says to this man, let those who are dead see to the burial of their own dead. Your deceased father is part of that group by virtue of not being part of the following Jesus group. It's a pretty wild thing to say. The identification of this man's father with those who don't yet follow Jesus is highly significant, and it's emphasized by that reflexive pronoun. Aphes tous necrus, leave the dead, thopsai, to bury, tous heauton necrus, their own dead. So, keep following me is the alternative to going back among the dead. You've walked away from the figuratively dead and you are following me. You are already one of my disciples. And instead of you leaving me and going back among the figurative dead for the purpose of burying the dead, you keep following me. It's quite it's quite an alternative. It's quite the opposite. Stick here in the realm of living and the things about life, rather than diverging and going back among the dead. Luke has a different alternative in Luke chapter 9, verse 60 here, where he starts out with aphes tous necrus, thopsai tous heauton necrus, identical to Matthew, leave the dead to bury their own dead, but now let's look at the alternative. Sude, but you, so you're not one of the dead, and therefore you're not to be involved with burying your own dead because you're not one of the dead. Sude, but you, apelthon, while departing, while going, diengele, spread the message about tein basileon, the kingdom to Theu of God. So rather than you going back among the dead, instead, while going, this is going to be your lifestyle, going, spread the message about the kingdom of God. So Jesus' interaction with this man begins with, follow me. I want to follow you, he says, but first, allow me to go and bury my father. And now Jesus tells him, leave the dead to bury their own dead, but as for you, follow me, which entails going and disseminating, communicating the message about the kingdom of God. That's what makes this a hard saying, right? If you've lost a loved one, if you've lost a close relative, your father, and Jesus says to you, that is a concern for those who are figuratively still dead. That's not a concern for you. You either keep following me or begin following me and continue following me, which entails traveling about and communicating the message about the kingdom of God. But there's no reason for you to go back among the dead and bury your own father. Wow, that's a hard saying, isn't it? But he places the father in both stories, he places the man's father in a separate camp from himself and the man now, right? There's nothing more you can do for your father. He's gone. It's too late for him. But you can do something for a lot of other people. And that something is follow me, continue to follow me, or begin to follow me and continue, which entails you participating in the proclamation of the kingdom of God to all these people, the figurative dead. There's nothing left for you to do for dad, but there is something you can do for the living. Follow me, proclaim the kingdom of God. So the hard saying differentiates the man from his biological father. I know you're concerned about him, but there's nothing more to do for him. He's in a different category. It also differentiates the kingdom of God and the life of a disciple with life in the world. There's a kingdom of death with which the figurative dead are preoccupied and involved, but you, disciple, whether it's the disciple in Matthew who's already a disciple or the one being called to discipleship, akaluthe moi, follow me, in Luke, in either case, they're being called to live in the kingdom that is very much alive and to proclaim the life that's available in that kingdom to those who are figuratively dead. It's a hard saying, isn't it? Imagine someone saying to you, disregard your deceased loved one because you've got bigger fish to fry here in the kingdom of the living God. Pretty wild stuff, pretty interesting. Whether it be one story or two, I'll let you wrestle with that as you will. And let me know what you think in the comments, whether this occurred twice or once. And I think that the wording and the language is somewhat magnificent. That reflexive pronoun that takes the man's father in both accounts and places him wholly in the province of those who are dead. Leave the dead to bury their own dead. But as for you, follow me. Great stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like, share, subscribe, the notification bell. Let your friends know if you find value in the channel. And until next time, Charis Kai Irene Humin, grace and peace to you.